we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means, on infiltration instead of invasion, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. There is little value in ensuring the survival of our nation if our traditions do not survive with it.
All right, welcome to episode 131 of the Abuse Hour. It is I, your host, Coffee Long, coming to you unsupervised, unmedicated, and an unchecked threat to society. So, as you might imagine, I am yet again, once again, dark early, on the way to the airport, my favorite thing in the entire fucking world. And, dude, I think the last time I put something out, I was walking in to get a roll and get beat up. And instead, I beat myself up, man. And I had just been thinking that, like, I haven't been injured in a while because it's, like, it's just a good way to get hurt. And it sucks because it's a good time and it's a really good workout. And if you go to a good place, you meet a lot of good people. And, man, I went in here and it was, like, total low-intensity day. Not a lot of dudes showed up. And, you know, usually if you're going to hurt yourself, it's going to be something like takedowns, or there's going to be like some judo dude in the room that's like, zap, like giving you the launch code over here and landing you on your melon. No, open guard, dude. Open guard, dude. Like, no, just open guard. What are we working? Open guard. Something stupid. And pulled some kind of silly shit and stepped this way and tried to move that way, and I went like so, and my leg stayed over there. So it's like here you go. Say goodbye to your hammy. Pull the hammy. And lay there like a dead fish for like a good 10 minutes crying. Just crying. Hating life. I'm crying. So, yeah, so there I was. Anyway, enough of that, man. I'm driving to the aeropuerto, and dude, if you missed it, well, if you're not in the rant room, then you probably, well, you might not, but if you're not on Telegram, you didn't get the last coffee break episode, which had a nice piece of a tea time in there. Get it? Tea time, get it? It's sort of a gimmick, but like I didn't come up with it. It just sort of magically happened. It was a good time. So, you know what? If you are only listening on, if you're only on Spotify or Apple or whatever, over on Telegram, it's a pretty good scene. We got like a little chat going there. You get, and again, it don't cost anything. I'm not shilling per se, you know, it's just like easier access. But I put this up on Telegram, t.me/the Abuse Hour, and so I got Abuse Hour, but then I also put up, like, once in a while, a couple of short, quick, you know, if I got something going on, like, hey, man, what do you think about this? And I'll put it up there and call it Coffee Break. So a little coffee break up there, and then there's a dude from the chat, this dude Marcus, the Lord Marcus, the Autism Appreciator, good people, puts up tea time. And as it is, he's a little more refined, gentlemanly type, person with means, a person with taste, a person that can pick his father out of a police lineup. You know the deal. You know the sort. Good people. But as it is I. And a couple quick takes, things going on. Man, I saw last night, so I went to bed late and woke up early. Pretty sweet. But something that I saw right before I went to sleep that made me laugh and laugh. I laughed till I cried. I cried till I laughed. Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, has come out and said that apparently this whole time that Donald Trump was only next to Jeffrey Epstein because he was an FBI informant. An FBI informant. Okay, yeah, that's what it was. I haven't seen anything further on that. I gotta look. I gotta look. I mean, come on. I mean, fucking come on, man. I mean, how much, like, how fucking stupid do you think me or anybody else is? This is like, this is telling your wife that, like, you gotta go to the strip club with your friend because, you know, he's has a little bit of a spending problem, you see, and his wife actually asked me to keep an eye on him, you understand? So I didn't have a choice, that's the thing. Yeah, get the fuck out of here. Like, what? It's incredible. I mean, it begs the question, I guess, then, like, I don't know, dude. I don't know. It's so fucking far-fetched. How about this, dude? I think in the course of getting rolled up, because obviously fucking Jeffrey Epstein did get rolled up, right? That's not the fucking issue. Obviously, the guy got pinched, right? But in the course of doing this, I want to imagine that they would have interviewed a few people over this shit. And I'm guessing Donald Trump was probably one of these people who got interviewed. Or did you know? Did you ever see anything? Did you see this? Did you see that? They probably talked to a lot of people. And probably, you know, I don't know. I'm guessing that probably the people that were neck deep in that shit were like, I am not telling you anything, right? I'm not saying a fucking word. Maybe, and I mean, I'm totally fucking speculating. I do not fucking know. But I will say that, okay, how about this, dude? Because I'm thinking through this shit as I'm talking about it. Donald Trump met his wife through Jeffrey Epstein, right? Met his current wife through Jeffrey Epstein. I don't know for sure how old she was when he met her. I think I saw speculation that she was underage when they met. So how about this? What if the only underage girl that, you know, only like it's okay. I'm not saying it's okay. I'm just saying the only one. What if the only underage girl that he hooked up with and banged through Jeffrey Epstein was his now wife? What if that? Is that a possibility? Because I know that, like, they can't compel a spouse to testify. So is this a possibility? I don't know. It could work like that, because if that was the case, then he could say, like, yeah, they interviewed me, and I said, well, yeah, I knew him. Yeah, I knew him. I was aware of him. I had been to the island. I'll have you know, I met my wife, beautiful woman, amazing woman. That's where I met her. I met her through him. That's the way that I met her. If that happened, I could see him bending on that. And in that case, you did talk to the feds, thus making you, that doesn't make you an informant. And I didn't see the headline. Maybe that was like the headline that they put together, because once again, like the fruits like to say, words matter, words matter. Well, they do matter. And if you would say informant, then this would suggest that, like, you got put in place, like you were sent in beforehand to collect information, bring it back to facilitate prostitution. No, I don't think he needed help with that. To facilitate prosecution. But if you just got rolled up, now you're not, I don't know that you are an informant now. You're more like just someone who is providing information. You're just answering questions. You're not a fucking informant. Like, you're not an operative in here. Don't bullshit yourself. All right, this is not what this is. But I don't know. I mean, that, I guess, seems like a possibility, because I've always been of the opinion, I don't completely know. I don't completely understand the vibe of how Donald Trump rolls, because he doesn't come across as, I mean, he doesn't come across like our guy or anything. I'm just saying he doesn't seem to come across as somebody who's hiding like some shit connected to this. I don't know. This is just my impression. But I have always been of the opinion that he was involved in this shit, perhaps unknowingly, as someone in a support capacity. Because once again, he was the dude that bought the, what the fuck was that place called? The Plaza Hotel. And the Plaza Hotel was a place where these collection operations had been conducted in the past, going way, way back, going back to like J. Edgar Hoover times, where they were recording guys, doing like the 1950s style, like hooker in the silk stockings thing, and then there's like a whole team of monkeys behind a one-way mirror, with a big, like, reel-to-reel video camera. Oh, we got you now, you fucker, right? So, yeah, this shit was going on there. So when I heard that he had bought the place in the 80s, all that said to me was, like, a very strong possibility that Bunny Ears, your country, which would make sense if you look at it as, like, the McCarthy era. Because, okay, here, let me rewind a little bit. Let me rabbit hole for you a little bit. If you look back, and I've said this before, dude, so if you've heard it before, please forgive. If you haven't heard it before, pay the fuck attention. Way back McCarthy era, if you remember, like, the McCarthy hearings, if you remember that shit, you saw, like, the picture of it in your textbook in school or something. You see Joseph McCarthy sitting there questioning, whatever, some actor or some shit. And the premise of that thing was to prevent the infiltration of communism into the American, the American lexicon through media, etc. So you remember, like, Senator Joseph McCarthy sitting at that table, and then to one side is some dude in an army uniform, and the other side is some squirrely little guy who you would presume to be his lawyer. The squirrely little lawyer-looking dude was Roy Cohn, homosexual Jewish dude with a strange predilection for spending time around kids, who was also Donald Trump's business mentor and the person who introduced him to Jeffrey Epstein. So, again, rewinding to the McCarthy situation, this was pushed from a premise of, we're looking for communists. We're looking to root out communists. So we're doing a lot of collection on a lot of people. A lot of people bought that, and what it appears to have been instead was, we're just collecting as a way to blackmail people. And, you can't really think, you got to think bigger, as any Hebrew would tell you. You got to think bigger. When you say blackmail, like, a small mind will think of this as, like, I want $1,000 or I'll send a copy of this letter you wrote to some woman that you're not married to or some shit. Bro, it's bigger than that, all right? Clearly, right? And I think when you look at it this way, if you look at, like, what they had the other day, where Marjorie Taylor Greene put forward this thing that, like, hey, we're going to cut Israel's funding, Israel's weapons funding by $500 million. And the vote against, it was like 460-something to 6. So if you look at it this way, this is very much an approach you can take during an interrogation, whereby you say, look, man, I have the goods on you. I have you by the balls. Just like the Matrix, right? I've talked about this before. We have you by the balls. Just give us a little bit more. You're going to be seen as helping us out. You're going to be, Bunny Ears, the good guy here. If you can just help me out, you do me a favor, I can do you a favor. This is already happening. Otherwise, who knows what happens, right? Because look at this giant file. I got you here. So if they come to these people the same way, like, look, dude, we have everybody. And at this point, everybody knows it. Like, everybody who's not in D.C. knows that these people have the entirety of D.C. by the nuts. So if they come to you, just you, and they're like, all right, look, I got you videoed up. I got you whatever, with this woman, with this coke, taking this money, doing whatever it is you do. I got you here. You go in here and you vote on this thing. You're going to vote no. We want to keep that funding. Everybody else is voting no, guy. You can go in here and be a pain in the ass, and who knows what happens. Who knows what happens with this information about you and your little cocaine habit. I mean, at this point, not really cocaine. Who gives a shit about that? Obviously, you got Keir Starmer and Zelensky out there higher than a giraffe's ass on the reg. But you know what I'm saying, for purposes of discussion. You go in here and you vote this way. Otherwise, who knows what happens, right? And as you can see, pretty obviously, people play fucking ball. So what I'm saying happened is they came to Donald Trump and said, hey, all right, so look, you're a patriot. You're an America-loving businessman. America's been good to you. Maybe you can be good to America. Here's what we need from you. And you're going to buy this thing. And I don't know, probably what would it be to be like, yeah, we're going to cover some of your costs on this. We're going to help you out. You're going to make money on this, and so on. And maybe he plays ball, but then finds out, oh, yeah, this guy is trafficking like so, and this is not actually about America. This is about hooking Israel up. Who knows? And then maybe there's a little bit of a difference of opinion. Maybe there's some kind of like, well, I could see my way clear, but some things are going to have to change. And then like your Hillary is like, no, we're not doing that. And then he just decides to make a legit run instead of just being kind of her punching bag to give her turn at presidency. I don't know. I could see that timeline makes sense to me. But this business of, he was an informant, I think to some degree, if that's the best story you could come up with, I have to assume that you got your hands dirty some kind of way, because this story is weak as fuck. I mean, he was an informant. Get the fuck out of here, dude. I think if he was actually super duper Mr. Helper, I think they would have come out with something better than just that little broke ass tagline. You know what I really like to see? I'd really like to see all of the angles they didn't go with. Because if this was their best option, I really want to see like the runners up. I want to see like, well, this story over here kind of fucking sucks, but this is kind of the only one we have. So I'd really, really like to see those. Anyway, something else I just saw yesterday that I'm not completely sure what to make of it or why it's out there, but I saw this thing that it has been, I don't want to say released, I will say leaked is the impression I get, and I'm not completely sure why, but leaked that a Tier 1 Special Operations Force in 2019 made an attempt to install a listening device of some kind to listen to North Korean communications. And it's the story I read was like communications, Kim Jong-un's, the personal communications. I don't know how you would narrow that down. I have no idea. But somehow, whatever, this was the story. Was so some unit, you know what I'm talking about, inserted via sub, and then I guess the story I read was like inserted via sub. They were in a mini sub and then surfacing, and this is the way that the story was talking, right? Surfacing every couple of minutes to see where they are, and then they get to shore, but now they're looking back out to sea, and there's some kind of an issue where like there's a fishing boat above the location where the sub that they got off of had been located or some kind of fucking thing. So they turn around and head back out, and then they get out there and it's just some fishing boat, and they all try to figure out what to do. So they just make the decision that like, well, we're going to have to kill these civilian fishermen. So they just go ahead and do that and then depart. So the mission was a failure. So the thing is on this is that, one, it appears that this is somebody, one, if you knew that the mission took place, and this is assuming that it actually did take place and this isn't made up entirely. It's like not made up by somebody at a newspaper, like just, you know what would be funny? And like making up their own operations. But if that's the case, it's somebody that would have known of it, but it doesn't appear that it's someone with any kind of operational knowledge, because this is kind of like, what the fuck are you talking about? You know, they did mention that these dudes were moving ashore, and they're talking about, they had weapons with no serial numbers on them. They had ammo with no distinguishing marks. And what I guess kind of caught my interest with that is like, okay, well, if it goes completely to shit and you get killed in the process, like they're probably going to know that this was an American operation if you've got like a dead American right there, right? Like they stripped the guy's wetsuit off and he's got a bunch of fucking ink and it's some jacked white dude. It's like, I got a pretty good idea. I wonder who it could have been. Who was this fucking guy, right? I don't know. His gun doesn't say anything, so I guess we're just going to have to guess. Maybe it was the Japanese. Take a look at him. So you'll probably know anyways, right? Anyway, I don't know. I mean, I could kind of see, like, just on the off chance, some kind of thing, like, we're just going to, remove all markings and so on. Maybe, you go ashore, you got to shoot somebody and then run away. And now you've got, whatever, shell casings with no distinguishing marks But then I don't know, are you using some kind of wacky foreign weapon? Because, I mean, I feel like they're going to guess. They're going to have some kind of a guess. Like, who could do this? Who would do this? Who would have ammo with no distinguishing marks? The list gets short quick, right? Anyway, so further along, they're talking about, they're moving, they're surfacing every few feet, or every few whatever, meters, minutes, whatever. That's not the way that works, right? You're going and then you're not popping up. Like, that's a big fucking deal on a dive. You're not popping up every few minutes, every few feet. You stay the fuck down there. You being subsurface is what keeps you invisible. Popping up this is amateur night. So is somebody saying that you would ever do that? This is not someone who has ever done an op like this. So that was kind of a giveaway, like, did what now? Like, this might have been like some kind of support person, like somebody working on the backside of this. I mean, it could be anybody. A guy that drives a truck, or a guy that makes sure that, whatever, dude, the fucking maps line up right. Who the fuck knows? Somebody in a support capacity without direct operational experience. On the idea that they get what's called soft compromise, like, you didn't get rolled up by an opposing force, you got spotted by like a goat herder, right? This is what it sounds like they're saying happened. Like, some kind of fishing boat, civilian fishing boat, saw these dudes, and they had a soft compromise. The idea that they had to stand there and think about it or discuss it or any kind of thing like this, like, again, this suggests that the person saying this has no operational experience. After the lone survivor incident, where you're talking about that patrol that got soft, well, your understanding would be soft compromise. If you're on the patrol, you just run into a goat herder. What we know now is that these goat herders had radios, they saw the helicopter insert, and they were out there trying to find these dudes. So it was kind of a soft compromise, but it was a hard compromise. Like, you got found by people who were looking for you to fuck you up. But approaching it as a soft compromise, the situation was that the big question at the time then was like, well, what do we do with these fucking guys, right? Do we smoke them? Do we let them go? Do we tie them to a tree and just leave them someplace? So there was a lot of discussion about this at the time of, like, what do you do if you got something like this? And it kind of developed a sort of I guess you could say, like, a hierarchy of preferences. Like, here's what's going to work best. Here's what's going to look best in the press. Here's what's going to not piss off the locals, and so on. So in the series of decision making here, you got to weigh, like, if I turn this person loose, or what is the possibility that this person generates a compromise, like a hard compromise, where I get fucking shot? What's my course of action here? And then what's going to be the most safe for my patrol, and what's going to not piss off the locals and generate an issue where I'm going to have to fucking see it on the news or some kind of thing like this. So you've got decisions like, one, you could just fucking smoke them, right? So if you think of, like, either the fishing boat or the what do you call it, the goat herder, you got a couple options. One, you can just smoke them, okay? Two, you can tie them to a tree, or you can kind of disable them in place. This is fine if you only need a little bit of time, and the car is right there, right? Or the helicopter is going to be just over there, and then you're the fuck out of here, right? This works. This works fine. The concern comes where, like a lone survivor situation, if you've got it where, like, I don't know when the helo is coming back, and I need to get the fuck out of the area, but I don't know if this person is going to haul ass and tell somebody. I don't know if this person has a radio stashed just over there, like they heard me coming up on them, and like, bloop, like hit a radio. I don't know. I got to consider that. So just turning them loose, like, this is really not a preferred option. Like, just turning somebody loose, like, this is, like, you got to really trust this person, and you got to have your out, like, immediately, because if this person fucks you over, you are in bad shape. Further along, then, you could just tie them to a tree or something, or cripple them, like sledgehammer one of their knees or something. But now they start screaming, or maybe somebody comes up on them, and now you're in the same fucking spot where now your presence is known, but it's known by somebody who can walk, right? And haul ass, and maybe they have a radio. Who the fuck knows, right? So that's not really that good of an option either. Like, obviously you didn't trust this person, and now you got to trust them to not make noise and that nobody else rolls up. So that's not very fucking good. The preferred option, typically, especially like with the lone survivor situation, I got soft compromised by a goat herder. You got to round this fucking guy up and bring him with. So this was kind of a thing that we did a lot of when we would do a gig called Overwatch operations, where like you go to somebody's house, like if you know that shitheads are planting IEDs in this stretch of road, right, or at this intersection, you would go and pick a good house in the area, one with good visibility on that area, and you just sit and watch, and you're going to see if anything goes down there. And if somebody comes out there with a shovel in the middle of the night or in the middle of the day, a lot of times, you just zap that fucking person. They're done, and now people understand the fucking point. Like, don't put bombs in the road. It blows shit up, and it pisses people off. So let's not fucking do that, right? But you're in here doing this, and you go do this, like you're going to be going to somebody's house. And then when you go to somebody's house, so you're going to be doing this, like you're going to roll up like 3 a.m. when people are dead asleep, right? And now you're going to have like your interpreter, like ding, 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 like give a little knock, and somebody will come to the door, and you're hiding someplace outside, and they do a little Arabic handshake, whatever. And now it's like, yeah, these guys are going to be coming to your house, so we're going to take care of you. We're not going to hurt you. We're going to give you a fucking thick stack of money. You're going to be happy as a clam, but you just got to be cool for a couple hours. If we get in there, we get in there then, and you look around, if this is, a couple of times we actually did roll in on somebody that was working as like a halfway house, because you're going to larger houses. You're going to the same houses that like the Al-Qaeda or the ISIS are going to go to. Like, look, that's a big fucking house. Let's go see if that rich guy wants to play ball. It's just sort of the way that it is. So you go in here, and sometimes you'll find like a bunch of rockets and a bunch of AKs, and like, well, here's the thing. The good news is you're going to have a place to sleep. The bad news is it ain't going to be here, right? So, sometimes you just roll this person up. But then if they're not, like that, if they're not dirty, then you give them a fat fucking stack of money and you got a new friend. So anyway, you go in here and you hang out, but you got to keep everybody inside all day. So a lot of times then, if these people have like goats or some shit, like somebody's got to go let the fucking goats out. So now you tell them like, all right, look, dude, you send your wife to let the goats out. You fucking come right back. Don't fuck around. And a lot of times they will, but like the neighbors notice, dude. Like these people, they're not indoor cats, right? They want to be outside. So it's like if you keep people inside all day, now it's like the neighbors notice that like, hey man, nobody's been out all day, and the windows are closed up, and the curtains are closed up, and the goats are still locked up. Like, what's going on over at the Muhammad household? So somebody will come to the door, and they're like, ding, 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 and now you're like, fuck, somebody's here. So you go down there and you're like, hey, go open the door and just invite them in real quick. So like the person will go down there and like, hello, come on in. And then as soon as they come in, you like grab them up. You're like, come in here. You get to hang out here today. So like they freak out a little bit at first. And you're like, look, man, we're not going to fucking hurt you, dude. Because, that's just bad press. And I don't get anything out of that. Just hang out. You get to hang out for the day. We're going to give you a little money. And sometimes it's like it's some guy that's got, he's got a wife and kids someplace. You're like, well, fucking send one of these kids over to get your wife and kids. Tell them to come over here. So pretty soon you got the whole fucking neighborhood in here. And, like nobody's goats are getting let out. And you're like, I'm sorry, man. Everybody's got to hang out here. So you got a bunch of people in here. But this is just the way that it is. Like you're getting soft compromised. But the best you can do in this case is you just keep these people with. You keep them under your control. And then when it's time to leave, you're like, hey, everybody be cool. And then the helicopter's going to pull out up there, or the trucks are going to pull out. And sometimes you got to change shit because you're not going to be walking it off. Like, yeah, we'll just walk out to the edge of town because who the fuck knows what goes on. As soon as you leave, they might be on the phone like, hey, those asshole Americans were here. Somebody go shoot them. No, you don't want that. So instead, you just, you leave them some fucking money as well. Because then if somebody comes by, then it's like, well, wait, they gave you money. What did you give them? All right. So they got to think about that. So that kind of at least buys you a little time. What you don't want, what does suck, is like somebody comes to the door and you're like, hey, come in here. And they're like, poof, they fucking bolt. And you're like, shit. Because you can't just fucking smoke them. That, sets a bad precedent. But now you're like, well, shit. Now you're definitely fucking blown. And anybody anywhere can be like, yeah, the fucking Americans are in there. And we had this happen a couple times where like you try to bring somebody in there and they fucking bolt. And you don't know who the fuck they told, but you know you're getting fucking shot at in a little bit, and that's not very cool. I can't say I enjoyed that shit at all. But it does wrap up because, like on an Overwatch deal anyway, it does wrap up because they know as soon as it gets dark, like you have a huge advantage. Like the night vision and the laser sighting type devices and shit, all this, like this is a monster advantage. Or they can get fucking smoked out of the sky as well, and like they can't see it coming. So when it gets to like dusk, they'll make a last effort, to see if they can catch somebody. And then it's like, all right, we're out. So then they take off and you're like, all right, man, now we're leaving. But you pretty much know, like, yeah, you can walk out of here now and they're not going to be able to fuck with you because, you'll see them way before they ever see you. And they just know the deal. Anyway, so what appears to have happened on this North Korean thing then, is there's a soft compromise, and I'm not completely sure how or what that looked like, and it wasn't real clear from what I read. Like, how would a fishing boat ever be looking for a sub or something? What are you fucking talking about? One way or another, something somehow got fucking compromised, and again, according to this, and the decision got made to like, yeah, we're just going to smoke these people and roll out. It's a least desirable decision, but it is the decision that it kind of leaves you with like, okay, yeah, I know I'm not going to get dimed out by these people. And you could say, yeah, that there's, for them, there's bad guys running around out here. But it also means that, like, you're going to double think, if you decide to come after. Like, you're going to have to stop and, like, okay, there's somebody here, but, like, okay, well, wait, they also have guns. So maybe let's go and report this and we'll come back later because I'm not trying to get shot right now. So, again, it's like this decision gets made early. We're like, yeah, if we get compromised here, if we get attacked here, we'll break contact, whatever. We'll recollect these guys at whatever place. And then if we get soft compromised, then, depending on what the fuck goes on, I don't know. But we're going to smoke whoever it is. If it's at this stage, we'll tie up these people and leave them. If it's at that stage, whatever it is, then we're going to get the fuck out of here. But that decision was made way before, this actually went down. Anyway, with that in mind, Jesus, I'm going to take a nap, I guess. And let's take a break real quick. I still haven't cooked up an intro, but I will leave you with a little tea time with Lord Marcus here. Drink it in.
Okay, you reprobate sons of bitches. It is me. It is the one known as Lord Marcus. Testing out the noise cancellation on my old mic here. See if it will disregard all the bullshit and the ooga booga of the city streets from where I'm recording. That's right. As many of you in the chat know, I am a denizen of the urban filth, the jungle, and I am a strong proponent of whites living in cities. I know that's a controversial take. And make no mistake, I have property in the country, and I greatly enjoy the countryside. And I believe the countryside, for the vast majority of whites, not all of them, but most whites prefer a rural setting, and that's fine. But I think there is a place for whites in cities. Simply look at our history, and I do not believe that the cities are a lost cause. They're very corrupt, obviously, outnumbered, obviously, but it can be done. You just have to think creatively and do a lot of things off the books. You get my drift, and you can maintain order, believe me. But that is not the topic of my little tea time here. Ding, 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 time for tea. I wanted to quickly remark on two things I read in the news. By the way, politics, not a strong point of mine. But if you are a listener of the Abuse Hour, you know our noble host, Mr. Coffee Long, likes to focus on the political end of things, so I'm just respecting his content tradition here. But two things that stuck out to me this week in the news, I guess semi-related and a little bit recondite, so I'm not sure you all heard this news. But point number one is that Trump has made an executive action to make burning the American flag illegal. And this stands out to me for three reasons. First of all, note, it is not an executive order, nor is it a law, obviously. It comes from the president's office, but rather something called an executive action. It's not numbered. It's not official as far as I could tell. It is, I don't want to say a new genre, but I guess you would call it like a gray zone executive, action that carries the force of law. It is enforceable by law enforcement people, but, it's not part of the record, so to speak. It's not executive order. It doesn't have a legally articulated weight in the same way that an executive order does. It is this thing called an executive action. And I haven't looked into the history of this particular, I guess you might call it, element of the executive office, but it strikes me as important that it's not an executive order. Second, you may wonder, why the hell would he do this, right? Because the question, can people burn the American flag, has been answered dozens of times by the Supreme Court, and the answer is yes, that is legitimate use of free speech. You can burn an American flag, and you have that right. Obviously, there are certain provisos, it has to be safe, and so on and so forth, but you can burn an American flag. That is a legitimate use of free speech. So why the fuck is Trump trying to make it illegal yet again? And here's where the third point comes in that I find kind of interesting. You have to look at how he's trying to make it illegal. The one facet of this is using executive action, this nebulous term, rather than an executive order, certainly not an act of legislation through the Congress. And the second is, I guess, the jurisprudential avenue, if you read the executive action, that he's trying to use to get to the point of illegality. And that is, to no one's surprise, through the use of hate crime language. Through the use of hate crime language, right? So he says burning the American flag is a hate crime. That is the basis upon which it has to be prohibited. It's not because of patriotism or anti-patriotic sentiment or anything like that. It's because it falls under this umbrella of a hate crime. And I find this meaningful because you can expect to see, I think, a lot more tyranny, tried to push through on us using this hate crime, Trojan horse, right? Because until we get a firm ruling on the fact that hate crime is complete bullshit, which it is, you can do pretty much anything and say it's a hate crime, right? That's the flexibility of the hate crime, is that it doesn't really mean anything, so you can make it mean whatever you want. And very insidious. I don't imagine that Trump's executive action will hold water, but I guess I'm interested in the trend, and I think that will become a trend, and I think you'll see more and more shit like this pushed through under the guise of hate crimes. By the way, I'm not sure if you heard the news of that girl who got arrested in Florida and for saying something anti-Semitic, but you should really look at the language of what she's charged with. The name of her crime is literally uttering an illegal opinion. Uttering an illegal opinion. That is what she's being charged with. How fucking sick is that? And hopefully she has some resources, or she can hustle up some money to challenge that, because it's prima facie fucking ridiculous. But yeah, the whole burning the flag thing, I was surprised when I read it because it's just so clearly and conclusively legal. You wonder why he would try to make it illegal yet again. The second thing I wanted to remark on, is it related? I don't know, maybe. But the second thing I wanted to remark on, and Coffee, our noble host, will certainly, I think, find this engaging, is that Trump has started something called a QRF for the National Guard. QRF. Military guys will recognize that, I'm sure. Quick Response Force. So within the apparatus of the National Guard, Trump has set up a quick response force. The idea being that if there is, some event, Black Lives Matter or whatever, riots in the streets, he'll have at his disposal an immediately ready force of National Guardsmen to take control of the situation. Sounds good in theory, right? But this does not bode well. I mean, this, I think, is a way that Trump is trying to circumvent the fact that you can't use the military for policing. It's in the Constitution. There's generations of case law against it. There are explicit laws on the books against it. You can't have a standing army that is intended to be used for domestic policing. It's very straightforward. But what if it's not a standing military force for policing, but a quick response force? And rather than be part of the Army or the Navy, it's part of the National Guard, right? This falls within the ambit of their responsibilities. They can be made ready very quickly. Everyone wins, right? I don't think so. I think this is going to be the instrument, or one of the instruments, that is used to tiptoe us closer to a state of actual recognizable martial law. And I've not been down to DC since the National Guard has deployed there, but I've heard from friends that it feels like a city under martial law. Like there's APCs and uniformed military people just all over the place with their M4s, and they're locked and they're ready to go, which just blows my mind that we're at this stage and no one really seems to care about it. I guess the idea is Trump has got 1,700 National Guard that he has or is deploying to 19 different states, which isn't a heck of a lot. I was surprised to hear it's so few. I mean, that's like 100 guardsmen per state. That's not really going to be a presence. But I think it's more meaningful, as with the flag burning and as with the quick response force within the National Guard. I think it's more meaningful as the gesture and setting up a legal precedent and a legal framework so that if not under Trump, under someone, martial law may be more readily achieved. Obviously, here's the thing. Like, I'm not actually against any of this, as long as our guys are pulling the strings and calling the shots. But of course, we can never be certain of that, and for that reason, it makes me nervous. And I think if there's a group that is likely to be targeted, it is above all anti-Semites, not necessarily Nazis or racists, but it will be people who voice opposition to Israel, certainly who organize in any capacity against Israel, especially if it's in a serious way. And having this quick response force, broadening the hate crime ambit, this all, I think, is setting up for, something bad. And maybe it will never happen, but the apparatus will be there to make it happen. And that's the both scary and exciting part. So we shall see, you little fruitcakes. Hope you had your Earl Grey with a little bit of lemon. Lord Marcus out.
All right, good talk right there, man. I'll tell you, man, I hear a lot of dudes talk about, like, yeah, I don't like cities. I want to live out in the country. Me, I've never been an out in the country guy either myself. I like living in cities, I like being in cities. I like being around the people. I like all the different places, all the stuff, the hustle, the bustle, this. I like that kind of thing. What I don't like is the overrun of the freeloader. And I do think that this is why they congregate in cities, is because this is where the free shit is, and this is where, a lot of people are that they can take advantage of. If there's a a bar around the corner. I can sit out here at 2 in the morning and wait for somebody fucked up to come out here. They're like they're like lions waiting, at the gazelle pond. Like, I'll just wait and spot the weak and the crippled gazelle or whatever, and going to jump on him and bite him in the neck and steal his wallet. But, I mean, it really would be cool. I'm trying to think of the last time I was in what you would call a major city that was actually majority white. I was in Boise a good while ago, and I do remember, it was a trip, dude. I was, and I can't remember if I told this story before, but I was in Boise, and I was just parking to get the lay of the land, as I had never been there before. And I parked, and I'm going to go walk around, and like I pull up and I pull into this spot, and my car's in there like 2 seconds, and I get this knock on the window, and this woman going, "Excuse me." And in most major cities, like, excuse me is like, I'm about to fuck with you. Like, I'm about to, whatever, tell you that, like, you scared my chihuahua, or you, whatever, some shit. This was my place. I'm saving it for my life partner or some shit. You're about to get fucked with is what excuse me means. So this woman is like, "Excuse me." And I'm like, I roll down the window and I'm like, "What?" And she's like, "Oh, well, I was just going to tell you that we're leaving that spot right there, and there's still an hour on it." And I was like, "Oh," I'm like, I'm really sorry. I'm like, I'm not from here. I thought you were, coming to hassle me about something." I felt like a real asshole. So I swear to God, this is a true story. I'm, I'll tell a lot of lies and bullshit stories. This is 100% true. So I park and I go cruising around. And I'm cruising up the street, and I walk by this restaurant, and there's these two women fumble fucking trying to get a coat hanger down the inside of this car window because this woman had locked her keys in her car. And I'm watching it, and I'm like, oh, man, what a bummer. And I'm watching them, and they suck. And I'm like, hey. And I'm like, standing way back because I don't want to look like a weirdo. And I realize, sometimes I come off like a criminal. But I'm like, "Hey, I can do that if you want." And she's like, "Oh, could you please?" I'm like, "Oh, yeah, fuck, sure, give me it." So I take this thing, pop the thing. And this one woman is like, "Oh, that's so great. Wait right here." I'm like, "All right." And she runs inside, and she comes back out, and she's like, "Well, this is my restaurant, and I really appreciate the help. I was trying to do that for like 20 minutes. And here, take a gift certificate to my restaurant here." I'm like, "Fuck, cool, thanks." So I swear this actually happened. I am not making this up, all right? So I keep walking down the street. I go do whatever. I go get lunch. I'm doing my thing. And then I look at the time, and I'm like, fuck, I forgot to put money in the meter. So I got to haul ass, and I'm hauling ass back to the what have you, to the parking spot. And I get there, and I'm fucking late, and there's a guy writing me a ticket, and I'm like, shit. I'm like, all right, well, it is what it is, man. You get what you get. But I walk up there, and this cop, I'm pulling out some money, and this cop is like, "Hey, yeah, it's it happens, no big deal." But he's like, "This one's just a warning, though. The first one's always a warning, so you got like another hour." I'm like, "Are you shitting me right now?" I'm like, I got a parking ticket. Like, this is free money for the city, but no, we're just going to give you a warning. I'm like, dude, I want to move here tomorrow. But, as it happens, and I mean, that was great, but as it happens, and this was all on the same day. I swear to you this happened. But, because as you could see, like, I got to fly out a lot, and Boise Airport is not really one stop away from anywhere. So, except like Salt Lake City or something. So I'm like, well, maybe another time, maybe in another life or something, just not right now. But I do remember that was one of the only places in the world that I'd seen a white person operating a leaf blower. Anyway, man, I had this thought, and check this out to wrap this up. Yeah, you've seen this thing where, like, the AI push, like the big AI push. Me, I'll tell you straight, I'm not a fan of AI. I find AI kind of lame, really pretty lame. I think the art sucks. I think the writing sucks. I think it's generally it's kind of fucking lame, honestly. I think it just pulls from shitty internet searches, and you kind of get whatever you get. But I've also seen this thing of like AI girlfriend, where you're gonna have like some AI personality that sends you text messages and like, "Good morning, sweetie," and da 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 da. And I thought about that, and I'm like, this is fucking torture, dude. Who the fuck would want that? I would want no part of an AI girlfriend. What the hell? Like, I don't want to text people back in real life. I get a text message, and I'm like, what the fuck do you want from me? I don't want that. And I sure, it's like having a, what's that thing? Tamagotchi. Remember that? I don't know if you remember that shit. It was like a little keychain deal. It's like a Japanese invention that's, like you got to deal with it like a fucking pet. Like you got to push buttons to water it. You got to push buttons to turn off the light so it can sleep. You got to push buttons to feed it. And I'm like, dude, what the fuck? I don't want any part of this in real life. Like, I got enough shit to deal with, and I got to deal with this? But apparently there's people out there that are into this kind of thing. I don't know. I cannot explain it. Anyway, I think that's enough, man. I'm gonna get in here, let Shaniqua look through my stuffs. But I'll tell you what I am gonna do. There was some talk in the chat yesterday about I think one of the dudes was telling a good story about it was some story where there was some girl that he had gone on a date with, and she was like, it in the story, right? I don't know, this is real life. This story could be embellished and doctored up for your enjoyment. But the way the story went was that dude goes out with some girl, hot girl, good looking girl, who is also a virgin and also wants to be raped for her first time. So tries to shill him to like, hey, download this app, and then at some point in the next, week or month or whatever, I want you to pop out of the bushes and rape me. Yeah, and I'll tell you what, like I listened to this story, and I think like anybody, the idea was like, that sounds interesting at least, and the dude didn't do it. He says didn't do it anyway, but the dude didn't do it, and my initial reaction was like, well, why the fuck not? But then I thought on it a little more, and I was like, this sounds like a lot of fucking work, man. And, like, I never got presented this specific option, but I did get presented similar options that led me to that exact conclusion. Like, you know what, man, this sounds like a real pain in the ass. So I'll tell a couple of those stories, not in the next abuse hour. I'll save that for the coffee break, like the chat exclusive material. But if you want to dig that, man, you can get this crummy content anywhere crummy content is purveyed. Also, shout out to Above Time Coffee, white product by white people for white people. Put it in a cup, put it in your mouth. It's for you. They don't pay me. I just shill. It's good stuff. I'm actually drinking some right now. Seriously, listen. Seriously, that's Above Time Coffee. Anyway, yeah, get yours at AboveTimeCoffee.com. Anyway, apart from that, if you want to get on the Telegram, dude, that is where the action is, vis-a-vis Abuse Hour, Coffee Break, Tea Time, etc. And you can find that at t.me/Abuse Hour, or the Abuse Hour. See, this is the problem, and I got one dude that helps me with the admin on the channel because I'm otherwise helpless. I think it's the Abuse Hour, t.me/the Abuse Hour, and then the associated chat, t.me/AH_rant room. Right? Like, what was I thinking when I put that together? Anyway, you can actually get there if you just go to the regular, like, access the podcast thing and then add a comment, and then it'll, like, link you to the fucking the chat. Good Lord Almighty, dude. Technology impaired. Coffee technology impaired. Anyways, dude, I'm gonna go in here and yeah, until next time, dude, keep your eyes on the horizon and keep your neck out of the noose. I've been Coffee. These are my takes.